G'day, welcome back to Primary Survey. My name is Ben, and today we are going to cruise through the new website. I've not been around a whole lot lately, partly from work, a lot from family, and some other personal issues that have been going on. But over the last year or so, I have managed to overhaul the website entirely. We're no longer a clunky Wix website. It's now quite a sleek app-styled website, and we've got a whole lot more content. So let's get started. First off, when you dive into the website, you will still get the old website. It looks a little bit different. There's a big launch app button there. Now, the reason we've got that is because the management, account management and everything is still run through the old website. We will eventually transition it over, but for the time being, it's going to be there and probably for the foreseeable future because it's quite a big job. It also handles all the billing and everything for subscriptions, so I don't really want to have to triple up on that. Once you launch app, you'll be brought up to the app. Surprise, surprise, which is this sleek sort of looking thing. It looks great on tablet and mobile now, rather than all scatterbrained all over the place. It's now quite sleek and looks good. So a lot of this will require, actually I think all of it will require you to log in. Clinical Tools shouldn't. Sign in is as simple as clicking that button, or if you go into something, it will ask you to. It'll redirect you back to the app, or back to the website rather, and then once you're logged in, it'll bring you straight back into the app, all signed in. That brings across any sort of subscriptions and anything as well, so that we can make sure you've got access to everything. Much the same. The simulator it has OSCE's, Voice of Viva's, job interviews. We've also now got a case review simulator for anyone that's actually working on road, whether that be as a student on placement or qualified or a grad. Basically, you go into that one, it'll bring you up a case review template. You fill that out, reflect on it a little bit, and the AI backend will act as a clinical educator and run through basically some feedback on it. OSCE Simulator is the old simulator. Again, it's going to give you your vitals, and it's going to be a back and forth chatting. There's a lot more options as far as taking actions now. So doing things like giving drugs or getting IV access is now very, very interactive. It's not just typing, hey, I've got IV access. It's choosing where, when, how, what, all that sort of jazz. Facilitated mode is something altogether new. It basically acts as a vitals monitor. It's a two-person sort of a sitch, or a small group rather. So person one will run through we'll actually have the facilitator dashboard where they can put your vital signs in. You can add everything there, and then you can improve, stabilize, and deteriorate live, and that'll show up on the other screen, whether that's another monitor on a computer or a phone or a tablet or whatever. So you can be running OSCEs and that's your monitor. Very, very cool. It's also got some ECG stuff going on, and then the facilitator can click these buttons as each thing is done, and just marks times and things like that. Very, very cool. You can also run scenarios there. You can pre-build simulations and scenarios. For example, you can say, hey, I've got an asthma case that I want to run. So you can pre-build that asthma case, and it'll automatically deteriorate and improve as treatment's done. And you can use that consistently. So if you're running, for example, 5 different people through the same sim, you're literally just clicking a button rather than having to set it up from scratch. Very, very cool. Job interview, it's behavioural interview and clinical interview questions, as if you are at an interview. Surprise, surprise, exactly as it sounds. Clinical tools, these will always be free. The simulator, wellbeing, community and personal stuff, which includes your CPD tracking, will generally always require a subscription. That's just to cover the cost of basically the web hosting, and the AI is surprisingly expensive. It's finely tuned, and it's as you'll learn soon, it's now been set up with QAS, New South Wales Ambulance, and Victoria Ambulance WAV clinical guidelines, so it will give feedback and everything to those guidelines, which is really exciting. So yeah, to be able to do all that, it's cost quite a bit of money. So the subscription fee is basically offsetting that. Clinical tools though, CPR and a rest timer is basically, if you don't have a defib, I wouldn't recommend using it unless you are, for some reason, without a monitor. But it basically just does your 2-minute cycles. It sets an alarm off every 2 minutes. Rest break calculator, as you'd expect, 15, 30 or 60 seconds, start counting. You tap every time someone breathes. And then at the end of the time, it will give you their rest rate. GCS calculator, it's pretty much a, what have you got? And it gives you your GCS, very exciting. Pediatric drugs are based on the QAS system, so age times 3 plus 7, and then the QAS doses. It's a little bit iffy, so I got to tweak it a little bit more, but always double check what it gives you. Burns, again, it's very basic. It's going to be click the thing and it will calculate the burns area and let you know to consider fluid. Again, clinical tools are always going to be free and should be accessible without logging in as well. So if you've got it on your phone and you're actually at a job or whatever, you should be able to bust that out. A lot of them will go onto an app, a watch app very soon as well. So you'll be able to use them on a watch, which is pretty cool. Learning, this is the ECG tutor. I've had a lot of problems with, so I've disabled it, but it was basically looking at your different components of an ECG, like your PR interval and P waves and that sort of jazz. Knowledge quizzes are more in depth. They're a multiple choice quiz. You go through and answer questions and see how much you know. Clinical Blitz is it's the same as the old quizzes that we had before. We've got GCS, medical terminology, and a couple of others that are coming in. And what they do, basically answer as many as you can in 60 seconds and challenge people, things like that. Try and beat your own high score. So it's just that repetition sort of thing. Wellbeing, it's a meal planner, shift optimization, and the first responder resources. Look, it's very, very light on at the moment. I do plan on putting a lot of effort into this because it's quite passionate. It's something I'm quite passionate about. But at the moment, it's quite light on, so we will come back to it. Community is looking at shared cases and live sims and your own history. So you can jump in there and have a look at cases other people are running, and if they've chosen to share them, you can then add comments on them. Mostly just for interests. However, it also does count towards your CPD for your qualified and grads. It's going to count towards your CPD for your your engagement. So if you're in there looking at cases and reviewing them and putting some feedback on them and constructive feedback about, hey, have you considered this? Did you consider this at this point? This happened. What do you think was going on? Did you consider this might be going on? That sort of jazz. That should count towards your towards ARPRA, and it will be logged automatically if you're a subscriber. Which brings us into our next one is our CPD tracking. So your CPD Vault, it logs your sims that you run automatically. These sims, again, are based, the feedback is based off of QAS guidelines, or, depending on what area you're in, I'll show you in a second. It's going to count towards that. So the hours tracking is a bit iffy at the moment. I'll condense it down. At the moment, it's tracking the entire amount of time that you've spent on the sim, which is not quite accurate because you probably shouldn't qualify that amount. But you can also add CPD. You can add external. So you can, I did this, I did that, date, duration, what it was, and then your reflection on it, and then you can log it. It will then go in. So we'll go 60 minutes, formal learning, log activity, test case, log activity, and it'll drop down here. You can then go back into it and it'll have your things. It'll count towards your ARPRA CPD. So you can export that as a PDF for ARPRA for everything as well. Shift calendar is quite exciting. It's a roster. You can fill it out. You can add You can add your shift blocks and things like that. You can add yourself to a team or group of friends, and they can see your roster. You can see theirs, and then you can go on and see when people are single. So if you're, so for example, the next 2 nights I'm one up because my partner's off on leave. So I could add on here that I'm solo, and that'll send an alert to all my people that follow me, my team, my friends, so they can pick up overtime. So I'm not alone anymore, and they're obviously doing overtime with someone they like. You can mark shift swaps on a shift swap marketplace, and you can add friends. So it's quite a cool roster system. And then you've got your private vault for storage of pins, phone numbers, and things like that. So if you work out of a number of stations, you can put the station pin codes in there. It's all secure. I keep the bat phones for all the different hospitals on there. So if I hit that, I can dial up bat phone for PA hospital or whatever, because otherwise they're stored in my phone as well. But if I'm not using my phone, obviously that's then all online if my phone's flat or whatever. And then also I keep the hospital codes in there to get into hospitals for like children's and things like that. Institutional and advanced, don't worry too much about. It's mostly for if you're a university lecturer or if you're a clinical educator or something. You can track a lot of stats there about what your cohort's doing when they're running sims, things like that. If you're doing it as a facilitator, running sims as a facilitator, and you're noticing critical errors and things like that, you can log them and it'll pick up if the sort of same things are happening over and over again. App Insights is a me thing that's just showing what people do on here so that I can know where to improve and where to focus attention. The history button, everyone should have that, and that'll show your simulation history. So if you're running sims, things like that. We'll jump in and have a very quick look at the simulator. So you've got your preferences now, so you can see you can add and remove things. This will be overhauled quite a bit. There'll be a lot more on here very soon. Clinical complexity 1 to 10, so you can say, yeah, I want only easy things, only hard things, or a range of everything. Your comorbidities, as it says there, so you're going to get things like a type 2 diabetes with CKD that might have had a fall. So you're just going to have those extra things to consider and manage. Jurisdiction, this is mostly QAS that has clinical guidelines uploaded, so it's just going to basically assess you based on your local conditions, your local guidelines. And then moving forward, your dispatch location, so at the moment it's all Queensland stuff. You select one of these, it's going to give you your time to hospital and things that make more sense in a sec. You can chuck a partner in there, give them a name or randomize it, and then say whether they're student where they stay silent. You basically have to tell them exactly what to do. Standard where they'll probably be a little bit proactive, and a senior, if you've got a senior partner, they will prompt you. So if you're rock up and you do your windscreen survey, they're going to be like, all right, we probably need to do a Dr. ABCD here and do a primary survey. So they're just going to give you hints along the way. So it's sort of like a tutorial mode. And again, you've got your all your different conditions. So if we hit start scenario, it's going to actually give us a dispatch information. So we're West Moreton District. We're in Lowood, where I'm working. Nearest hospital is Esk. Be mindful, obviously, that that's a rural hospital. Nearest hospital, so they're 43 minutes away. You've got your PCI, stroke, and trauma hospitals. So obviously for Lowood, you're looking at PCI is going to be PA. Stroke is going to be IPI. Actually, it's probably PA as well. And trauma is going to be PA as well. Well, that's not very exciting. But anyway, we've got our address. That really doesn't matter too much. Grid doesn't really matter. So we're on a 1A. DKA obviously is not in a good way. It probably should only be a 1B or C, but anyway. We can allow spectators, so if we hit that before we acknowledge it, it's going to broadcast the sim, so anyone that's on the app in that section we just saw, the live broadcast section, will be able to jump in there and actually watch us do it. So acknowledge it, and it's going to give us the sim. like I say, it's fundamentally the same, but it looks very different. So it gives us our windscreen survey bang off. So we're in a public park at 04 to 30. I don't really know what an elderly person's doing out there having a DKA episode. Gives you a bit about the patient. Conscious, moving head slowly towards arriving vehicle. Morgan is standing by the rear of the ambulance awaiting instructions. So it's given as a partner Morgan. So we can approaching patient. RA alert to our presence. So what we do now is we've got a lot more of these in these clinical assessments. So we can hit our vital signs survey. Our partner's then going to start doing things like setting this up. So we've got patients in AF that is not an AF rhythm. We'll need to fix that. Heart rate, BP, SATs, rest rate, temp, that's a bit high, and sugars. Yeah, so he's obviously got very high sugars. So you've also got a timer here that ticks up. These stats do change as your timer ticks up. So if you're sitting here, if you start a sim, wander off, you come back in 20 minutes, half an hour, your patient's going to have deteriorated because it's live. But I'll run through. So your DR, ABCD is more just for thought things. So a lot of these, they'll bring up the window and you actually select them. So to actually assess this, you're going to need to be asking questions. So you're going to be saying, can you squeeze my hands, things like that. And then you hit it in prepare and it'll go up to here. A lot of them aren't important. The AI that is in the background is going to see if you've done a GCS, although you haven't actually verbalized it. But it is helpful for the students and things like that to make sure they're ticking all those boxes. So they're going to do that. You go through your skills. We've got a lot more here. So we've got a bit of everything. They all come up with a little menu. So if we go IV cannulation, we're going to make sure we're indicated for it. We're not contraindicated. We're going to select the gauge we want to go. So in this case, we're going to go a 20 in the left ACF. You can choose whether you're doing it, whether your partner's doing it. You chuck that in there, and then on your next message, you're going to attempt that cannulation. Might not work in all patients. You might get a message saying it hasn't worked. And then, so if we just go submit, it's going to say that we've done that. Usually you'd type in there as well. You'd say, all right, let's get to IV access, things like that. There you go. So we've said in this case, left cube is devoid of palpable veins. 20 has trouble getting through the subcut flat. No flashback. Hematoma forms at the public puncture site. Partner says the 20 is blown. Can't see anything else in there. So we can try again. Might try the right side. And again, if you do something that's contrad or not indicated, it'll give you feedback on that. So because we're stuffing around here, we're not talking to him, we're not doing anything. The patient is deteriorating, so we can see his blood pressure's gone down, is coming down. Again, we're in the high complexity as well, so we haven't been able to get IV access there as well. Monitors showing narrowing pulse pressure, acetone, odor and breath. So look, ultimately we do actually need to get IV in this fella. We can request a CCP, so we can say, it asks you for a sit rep when you're requesting a CCP and it will assess you based on this. So we'll just clear that off for a sec. And similarly, given we're out in Lowood, we may even consider a helicopter. You can request additional crew, police. You can call the clinical hub, so this is your consult line. I'll get rid of the visiting medical practitioner one. It's not really relevant. It was just from a list that I put in there, and it doesn't actually do anything at the moment. So if you consult with Chubb or whatever, you you've got to give a situation NS bar, so you've got to actually see what you want to request and things like that. And then just your dispositions if you're not transporting. If we are transporting, it's going to ask us whether we're going code 1 or code 2. It's going to want to know where we're going. If you're pre-notifying because they're a sick person, you're going to give an IMIST AMBO in there. And go from there. It'll give you some quite detailed feedback if I hit end scenario. If it's a long transport time, so 43 minutes or something, then it's going to be, you've got to do your in-transit management, manage as appropriate, because it's important. And depending on how long you take to do all this, situation develops. So 12 minutes into transport, you're getting a Kussmaul pattern. So you're going to you'll manage them we won't go into actual clinical management here. I will do a sim in a minute and post that as another video, but we'll do that. It'll give us our feedback. So, 62 is probably a decent score there, but we've recognised what was going on. If you've done a shitty case, it's going to give you a wellbeing check-in to go take some breaths and grab a glass of water and things as well. Fluid resus lag, so it's basically telling us we didn't do things in a timely manner. Minimal evidence of structured handover. We didn't actually get consent for cannulation. Rationale. We didn't really do anything there. So it's basically going to judge you. You then go through your reflective practice at the end. You can skip this, you just hit the cross up the top. I might get that cross to sit there all the time. So that's more for your ARPRA. If you're doing this with ARPRA in mind, actually it's important to reflect on everything. So anyway, you chuck your reflection in there, submit reflection. It'll give you some more feedback. It'll basically say, hey, your reflection was good, or have you considered this? You can then choose to post it to the community feed with a name and any reflection, and you hit share case. It'll obviously jump out onto the clinical feed there, the community feed, and other people can comment on it and put some notes in there as well. So yeah, that's kind of a quick run through what we've got. I will go through in some more detail each other simulation and all the other tools and everything as well. But I just wanted to give a bit of an update. The site isn't dead. I'm not dead. I do hope to get the podcast going again very soon as well. This is all something I'm very passionate about, and I've been a bit upset that I haven't been able to work on it very much lately and haven't been doing the podcast and kind of just disappeared on people. It was never my intention. I had quite a big family court battle on my hands, and I relocated out to Westmoreton and things like that. So I'm now back on deck and hoping to be more active and get things going again. So thanks for watching. I hope you've all enjoyed a quick tour of everything, and I hope you all sign up and have a bit of a play with it and give me a lot of feedback. There's a report a bug, report problem issue down the bottom left, and a contact if you wanted to reach out. Otherwise, you're always welcome to email me. It's ben.leg@primarysurvey.com.au. You can find that on the website and things. Again, thanks for watching, and stay safe.